The first college football playoff rankings came out, and we are going to talk about it a little bit. Welcome on into the show. Welcome on into the Cards Companion. Talking about college football playoff rankings today. First and foremost, James, how are you doing tonight, man?
Doing good. We're recording this on Wednesday. The rankings came out on Tuesday night. We've had 24 hours to kind of digest what the committee's actually doing this year and trying to see how the rankings are going to unfold.
Yeah, before we get into the rankings specifically, these first rankings are typically very important because we can see thought processes behind the committee start to develop. And I didn't come away from the first ranking show with that in mind. You know, it didn't seem like there was any coherent thought process. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is kind of disappointing to see, but it is what it is. As you can see, we have the rankings right here if you need to follow along. But we're going to start off with the rankings, and we're just going to go through from the bottom to the top and just talk about a little bit about each of these spots. If you want to hit on something, just let me know, James, so we can stop and talk about it. If not, I'll just keep going, okay? The first one is 25, Tennessee.
Okay. Tennessee, they're a team that they have yet to win a game against a team with a winning record at the P4 level this season. Their best win is on the road at 4-4 Mississippi State. This is a Tennessee team me and you have spoken on throughout the season about their struggles on the defensive side of the ball. This is a puzzling pick here. I don't want to talk ill on Tennessee too much, but it kind of feels that they're in this spot solely on the conference they're in.
Well, I don't like it because for the resume that you just hit on, you're absolutely correct. But we've seen it traditionally speaking, and this might sound like a really dumb argument, but I'm going to make it. Traditionally speaking, we've seen the top-ranked G5, if they're not a top 25 school, they shift them into that 25 spot just because it's easy for the average viewer to understand. And I wish they would have done that here over at Tennessee because I'm with you. I don't think Tennessee is very deserving to be in the top 25. At least with Memphis, you can make the argument. And I guess before we go any further, the top G5 is Memphis, even though they're not ranked currently.
Yeah.
Continuing down, 24 Pitt. I really like that. What about you?
I like Pitt. They got some love in the Cardinal Companion rankings that the last few weeks we put out. That's a team that's consistently gotten better as the year's gone on, and they got a legit freshman quarterback that can score against anybody. They got a big one coming next week at home.
Missouri. I'm very indifferent on that one. You know, I see the argument for it. I see the argument against it. I mean, they don't really have. Who is their best one?
South Carolina.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
My opinion on Missouri is their resume is not the greatest. They played well against teams that are ranked ahead of them, but they haven't beat anybody. And you have to and I hate to say this, but it's the reality of it. The whole thing about the BCS was you wanted it to be the best matchup. So at some point, you're going to have to factor in who's actually going to be playing. And Missouri's now lost two quarterbacks to season-ending injuries. Their offense is very run-heavy. If the running game's took away, they're stuck. They have a really good defense, but this is another situation where I don't know if they should be here. You had Memphis at 25. I think Memphis or one of the other G5 schools could have been slid into this spot right here at 22.
Yeah. Continuing on down, we have Michigan at 21. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't think Michigan is any good this year.
I feel like this Michigan team's very similar to last year's Michigan team. Slightly better quarterback play, but I think it's very over-reliant on a weak schedule. The games against teams that are in the top 50 on the FBI Plus, I think they're 0-3 against. Or 1-2. They're having some issues with teams that are able to run the ball. And that's weird to say about a Michigan defense, but I don't consider Michigan a top 25 team this year.
I don't either. Then another team that I don't. This is the puzzling one for me. At number 20, we have Iowa. That one's just puzzling to me. Now, I know Iowa was working their way into the polls slowly, at least into the AP poll slowly, but this is a program I don't see what anybody sees in Iowa. I genuinely, They don't play a difficult schedule. They have the 43rd SOS in the country. They have the 38th SOR right now. I don't see it. Is it because, hey, you didn't get your brains beaten by Indiana that we're going to rank you high?
So with Iowa, it's kind of weird because you know what you're going to get with Iowa. You know their defense is always going to be a top 20 unit. Their offense is not great, but it's better than it has been the last couple of years. I think that story's similar to what you saw from like Indiana last year. We've learned Indiana was legit, but the kind of takeaway we had from Indiana last year was they're beating up on the bottom of the Big Ten. The bottom of the Big Ten, by the way, that's probably the worst bottom six of any Power Four conference I've ever seen this year.
It's bad. It's
Um,
bad.
and I think Iowa's beating teams, and they're beating teams by a lot. And I think that's how they get here and you'll see that as you go up these rankings. I feel like the committee's allowing the teams that run up the score to get some more votes.
I agree. 19 USC, I really don't have much to say. I think that's actually probably accurate.
So I feel like they should be in the top 25. It's not one of those situations.
Yeah.
I feel like they should be a little bit lower. I feel like this is one of those situations where their opinion on other teams may influence the placement of USC here.
Yeah.
I feel like they may be high on a certain team we'll talk about here in a few minutes, and they had beat USC, and they had to justify that by putting USC higher.
I agree. And then the one that I have a real big problem with, number 18, Miami. Miami has the 29th ranked SOS, the 27th ranked SOR. I get that they are 10-2. Jeez Louise. I get that they are X-2. Their 2 losses come over Louisville and
SMU.
Thank you. SMU loss can be constrained as not good. Louisville loss, good loss. Wins over Notre Dame, South Florida. I don't get their placement. I mean, I get they needed to drop. That's understandable. But 8 spots here, I don't understand it. Try to explain it to me, please.
The offense efficiency has been decreasing week to week since I don't know if the Louisville game exposed this Miami offense, but if you see their efficiency rates from week to week, even in that win they had against Stanford, that first half, the offense was very stagnant. It relied on Stanford kind of beating itself. And like I said, they're not consistently able to score a lot of points, and the defense has kind of been hindered by some injuries lately. Again, Miami has a national championship level defense, one of the better defenses I've seen this year. I don't think they should be this low. The 2 losses are against 2 teams that are top 4 in ACC. Both of them could play in Charlotte. One of them is ranked ahead, and the other isn't receiving votes. I think they were like 32nd overall in the rankings. So 2 top 40 teams, and one of which was on the road. I feel like this Miami team's a team that's better than this spot. I feel like you could see them move up in the weeks coming.
Just explain to me this before we move off of Miami. Miami 18th, Notre Dame 10. Miami has better metrics than Notre Dame, better analytically than Notre Dame, more difficult schedule than Notre Dame, has the head-to-head win over Notre Dame, but Notre Dame is 10 spots higher. That makes zero freaking sense to me.
It's that classic 2011 Ohio State. When they lost to Virginia Tech, if people if you don't remember, week 2 I think it was in Blacksburg, and everybody kind of just brushed it off because it was week 2. And who was it, Stanford that lost their first game like the last week of the season that year.
Yeah, and it bumped
But
them out.
overall, strength of record and everything was better than Ohio State, but Ohio State got to a better bowl just because see bias. I think that's really in play right now in this, which is kind of questionable because Notre Dame's coming off a game where Boston College gave them.
They didn't look good. Yeah. Hey man, we'll talk about Notre Dame later. I don't think they beat Pittsburgh in a few weeks.
But Miami,
moving on down. Sorry,
Miami. I do think you're underranked. I have you higher in mine.
Yeah. We got Georgia Tech at 17. I get this one. I get it. You're X-1. You don't have very good scheduling metrics. You just lost. I get it. You know.
So I had them similar. I think I had them at 18 in mine.
Yeah.
It's kind of because you weren't ranked. Your burst into the rankings was that Clemson game. Clemson looks worse from week to week situation. You're still very stagnant. The offense hasn't really exploded and found like a second option from Haynes King. and the defense is getting progressively worse. CJ Bailey lit them up on one leg last week. And I feel like you have to be punished for that because they probably had the easiest strength of schedule in the ACC this year, and it was kind of theirs to lose, and they got dominated
Yeah.
on the defense side of the ball.
Yeah. Moving on down again, we have Vanderbilt at number 16.
Okay, I'll start
This
with
is
this one.
another one of those. Oh, go for it. Okay.
I gotta go on a rant about this.
Yeah, go for it.
I don't agree with this at all. I feel like Vanderbilt, I feel like they didn't get gifted with an easy road. Like they didn't have the Georgia Tech schedule. They didn't have Notre Dame schedule. They've very much had a rough time. Some factors have that Missouri win's a good win. LSU, for everything that happened when they played, LSU was still kind of clicking.
Mm-hmm.
This this Vanderbilt team was not the ninth ranked team in the country last week,
Yeah.
and it comes at this is why I can't make sense of what the committee did. Because if you believe that because Texas, we'll talk about them in a few minutes, they're higher. If you honestly feel like Texas is a top 12, 13 team, and Vanderbilt went into Texas and only lost by 3 points, and their only other loss was Alabama, who's also ahead, I don't understand how you drop them 8 spots.
That's understandable. I mean that is I mean that's fully understandable in this situation. And I think this is becoming a recurring theme as well. Or maybe they are over dropping teams based off of one loss. The next one down is Louisville at 15. This one's been kind of a very hot topic, to say the least, amongst people online. They're at 15. They're X-1. Best win is over Miami. Has wins over Pittsburgh as well. Lost to Virginia, another top 15 team. They have the 13th strength of record in the country.
First of all, shout out JMU. JMU's the 32nd in receiving votes. I think they're right behind USF and Memphis in the G5, right? Um, I, I don't want to harp on Notre Dame too much before, but this is another team. I wish we can have like a graphic of the side by side of the stats for like Notre
Oh,
Dame.
like a resume comparison. Well,
Yeah,
and
like
I mean that's because you've seen the tweets, haven't you?
yeah, it's not even just them. It's like from 10 to 15. If you
Yeah.
And I will harp on that. Like you get Notre Dame, Texas, Oklahoma, Virginia, Louisville, and you throw Miami on the back end of that. In looking at everything, the efficiency rates, who they've lost to, who they beat, I can't find like a pattern of how we're ranking these teams.
I cannot, and that's my issue because like I look at a Louisville, and this isn't me doing the Louisville Homer thing. I'm like, when it going into this week, I was like, I think you're probably 13th, but we'll say 14. And then like to throw you at 15, I'm not upset about the 15. You can still go forward at 15. That's nothing bad at all. It's the teams they have in front of you with the resumes that they have compared to yours.
Mm-hmm.
Because from what I take away from it is that, hey, we are ranking these teams based off of the eye test or the vibes or whatever we feel. Because quite truthfully, Louisville has a better resume than probably 4 teams in front of them.
So I agree. I think honestly, if you're going by strictly resume, I think Louisville has a top 10 resume. I still
Mm-hmm.
think going to Miami was the best win in college football this year. I still think that Miami team's a lot better than that 18 spot. That loss against Virginia is another factor I tell you that I can't make sense of things. If Virginia is a top 15 team and your only loss is in overtime against that team, and that's how you honestly feel as a committee, I do not know how you punish Louisville too much and put them under a 2-loss Notre Dame team that lost to the
Yeah.
same Miami team that Louisville beat.
And I know that nobody wants to make this argument. This is not a good argument to have. It does not set a very good precedence. Louisville should be ranked ahead of Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
I get that Virginia has a head-to-head win, and that is awesome. I love that for Virginia. But, man, the metrics are so far in Louisville's direction. And at the end of the day, you play who you play. And when I look at Louisville, you can make a lot of excuses for them as a pollster when they played Virginia. But moving on down, we do have Virginia at number 14. Have played just absolutely nobody outside of Louisville.
Their only loss is the NC State team, which, don't get me wrong, they beat Georgia Tech this past week and their offense looked good. But over the course of the year, the NC State team hasn't been great.
Mm-hmm.
They're a middle
Very
to
inconsistent.
they're a middle to bottom tier ACC team this year. They have a really good offense. Defense is pretty bad. Um, the metrics aren't great for Virginia. They're kind of sliding by week to week, just doing just
Mhm.
enough. I have them at the 14 and 15 just because you can't punish them too much because they haven't taken care of position. But I do question how they're over the two teams behind them here, just because resumes they just don't really match up at all. Outside of the
Yeah.
head to head, that's the only really argument you can have for Virginia here.
Yeah. Moving on down to, again, one of the more puzzling ones on here for me, Utah at 13.
So this reminds me a lot of that Iowa situation. Utah's the last couple
Mhm.
weeks has come out and I think they've scored over 40 points the last 2, maybe 3 weeks. And their offense has just been able to be very explosive. And I feel like that they're getting points for that. Don't get me wrong, they're coming off a big win at home late night against Cincinnati. But here's the thing. I don't think Cincinnati's defense is very good outside of their defensive line. I don't think their secondary is great. It's not the Cincinnati team that went to the playoff. With that being said, Utah has been burned. You've seen them lose a couple games inside the Big Ten. I think they're a top 20 team. I think if you flip flop this Utah team with Miami, I think that's a little bit more fair.
I do not understand the ranking for Utah here. I don't understand who Utah has beaten. I don't understand how you look at their metrics and say, hey, this team is awesome. They have the 23rd strength of record. We have the 54th strength of schedule. Best win is probably Cincinnati.
I think it is Cincinnati right now.
I don't get it. I don't get the Utah thing, but hey, they will drop a game.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I'm pretty confident in saying. Utah will drop a game. Oklahoma at number 12. How we feel about Oklahoma at number 12?
They're being
Genuinely.
overinflated. They're being overinflated by beating Tennessee. That's a team
Yep.
that's
I
going to
agree.
drop a game. Next week they play Alabama. Georgia
Yep.
plays Texas, who's number 11, by the way. So next week's a
Yep.
game where you're going to see if either the 11 and 12 spot really deserve to be in there real quick. The defense is still good. Mateer just hasn't looked the same since he came back from the injury. The offense is kind of stagnant. Here's the thing: they're an offense that could score 17 to 20 points every game, but it's kind of the opposite of what you see from teams like Miami and Louisville. Oklahoma doesn't have big playability. I think they have the least play number of plays, 20 plus yards.
They're very consistent. Very,
Yeah,
very consistent offense.
yeah, they get that 3 to 4 yards, and if you
Mm-hmm.
can end first down, they're going to punt the ball most often because they're not going to be able to beat you down the field. And I'm just not sold on this Oklahoma team, and it's week 10, and all they keep showing me is they're scraping by some weeks, and you're a bad referee call away from losing to an Auburn team that just fired their coach.
But the one thing I will say for Oklahoma, I would say that their identity is their defense. They have one of the
Yeah.
best defenses in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And if your identity is your defense, is it not expected a little bit for you to scrape by?
Yeah, but that's not how they were promoting themselves, and that's not how they were they were playing at the beginning of the year when they were beating up on these lesser teams, such as whenever they played Michigan and everybody's like, they got this world star offense. Tier's going to win the Heisman. And it kind of flamed out once teams were able to key in on, which is win first down, and they can't really do much down the field.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Moving on down again to Oklahoma's bitter rival, Texas, at number 11. I'm going to start us off on this one, if you don't mind. I think Texas is way too inconsistent to be number 11. I have legitimately seen Texas play some of the most disgusting football I've seen all season long. That Kentucky game will burn in my head because I saw Texas not able to move the ball at all on offense. I guess we think Texas got their swag back because they held off a Vanderbilt late comeback. I don't see it. Their measurables though, their metrics are really good. They have the 11th strength of schedule, the 9th strength of record. That's pretty good. But I don't see it. Their offensive line has had struggles consistently throughout the season. Yes, Arch Manning is looking a little bit better. Defense looks fine. Wide receiver room looks amazing. Running back room looks pretty dang good as well. But just way too much inconsistency from a week to week basis on what we've seen from that offense. I don't feel comfortable with them at 11. And to be completely honest with you, kind of what you just hit on, I feel like they're in the top 12 so they can market the Georgia game a little bit better next week.
I completely agree. I have nothing to add about Texas.
Don't know where I'd put them, but not 11. Moving on down once more, Notre Dame at 10. I'm going to talk about this one again. Notre Dame's not a good football team.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely want everyone to know that Notre Dame's not a very good football team. They are physical, yes, but they do not have the playmaking ability. Their running back room, I will say, Love. He's one of the best running backs in the country. He's probably top 4, top 5, which he's amazing. But they've struggled quarterback play. They have very, very little talent in the wideout room. Offensive line's pretty good. Defensively, they're fine. Again, though, they have beaten absolutely no one. When we're hanging our laurels on wins over Boston Colleges and Boise States and Wake Forest is. I ask myself what we're doing. Anytime we've seen them play legitimate competition, they've been flat out embarrassed.
I think their best win's USC, who I mentioned earlier at 19, and I feel like that's only to justify Notre Dame.
Yeah, I do not see it. This is a football team. Their strength of record is 15th in the country, which take that if you want. I really believe in that strength of record metric, so I'm going to keep harping on that. By the way, I think that's actually a really good metric that ESPN employs. But this Notre Dame team, I'm so confident in it. In 2 weeks, they're going to go to Pittsburgh and just get their brains beaten in
That's
because they
next
have not
week.
seen a passing attack like that. Yeah, next week. Sorry, next week. I don't know. What do you think about Notre Dame?
So I've kind of, not purposely, but I've kind of discussed it on a couple different times. I don't think they're a bad team. I think they're a team that that's the bad thing about independence is you're kind of able to schedule easy on the back half. Here's the thing:
Mm-hmm.
the games they kind of scheduled to challenge themselves, they've lost both of those. Don't get me wrong; they're
They got
against two
blown
teams.
out.
Well,
The games
yeah.
weren't competitive.
Notre Dame's defense, their secondary's not as good as it was last year. Not even close. Their defense line's good, but it's not great. Their offensive line's not been healthy all year. I think they've not had a back-to-back a situation where back-to-back weeks they've started the same five. Love it. I can't talk about him enough. He's very good. CJ Carr, he's
Yeah.
improving
Oh
week
yeah.
to week.
Yeah.
And I said earlier this year, I think he has a chance to be one of the all-timers at Notre Dame. But this year ain't it. I just feel like this team's good for a top 20 team, maybe 16 to 20. They just haven't done enough for me with having a loss. And it's hard to not look at Miami at 18 and Notre Dame at 10 and question why is there 8 spots between these two teams?
Yeah. That's the natural comparison people are going to draw, in my opinion. The last thing I'll say about Notre Dame before we move on down the list. We've seen this before in the college football playoff rankings. If you're a good team and you just don't quite have the resume, or, if you're a team that doesn't quite have the resume, if you're a team that doesn't quite have the analytics and they want to push you higher, you can fall back on the eye test, the eye test metric, what no one knows what that means, but hey, they've looked good recently. We think they're pretty good. You cannot do that with Notre Dame. They've not recently been playing good football. So,
In the number 9 spot, you have Dan Lanning's Oregon Ducks coming in with their only loss being in that Indiana game. Here's my thoughts on Oregon. Oregon's a team that haven't looked good recently. They're coming off a game where they had some trouble dealing with, I think was it Rutgers or Northwestern. They only beat 21-7 a couple weeks ago. They recently had a bye. Up to this point, biggest win is a Penn State team. It's a wideout. Don't get me wrong. Penn State at the time was the top 5 team, but from what we know now, Penn State, that's not a top 5 team. I don't know you have the metrics on it, but their strength of schedule really hasn't been great. I don't think they've beat a team right inside the top 40 in the FPI right now. Their only good matchup was that Indiana game.
I can strongly believe that because their strength of schedule is legitimately one of the lowest in the top 25.
Their offense has gotten
Genuinely
progressive.
is.
Dante Moore
Sorry.
showing those same freshman qualities that CJ Carr had. CJ Carr has been showing. He's a freshman. You see it. You kind of expect it. The only thing is
Mhm.
Oregon has had a schedule where outside of the Indiana game, you should be just running over people, and you're not. It doesn't feel like they're fixing their issues from a week-to-week basis, and to me, this Oregon roster, this Oregon team's not a top 10 team, and you also, as a committee, factor in Oregon's had quite a few defensive starters enter the portal before this came out.
Mhm. I am not. I like you are. I'm not sold on Oregon. This is going to be a recurring theme, and this is going to be one of my major takeaways from the poll. I really feel like they're getting artificially bumped up.
Mhm.
I think that they, and like this isn't me completely crapping on Oregon. If it were me, I would have them at like 14, 15, where
Yeah.
they can win their way in. But right now,
Mhm.
this moment, I do not see them in the top 10. And I don't know if that's arguing semantics, what that's doing, but I just don't see it. I do not see it. They do have a little bit of a stretch coming up this season, but I've even seen Oregon fans themselves say, hey, even going into the season, we're like, this may not be the year. This might be the 9-3 year. This might be the 8-4 year.
Mhm.
I don't have a lot of faith in this roster, personally speaking. Um, so yeah, I wouldn't have them in the top 10 right now, just being very blunt. But
I agree.
moving on down to number 8, we have Texas Tech. This is gonna be another big one. And Texas Tech, I think, is pretty good.
Yeah.
I really do. I think on paper, like if you want to make like the eye test argument, I genuinely think you can make that for Texas Tech. They've been struggling as of recently. They've also been down a quarterback. And it's not a season ending thing. He's gonna come back. That is reasonable. If you take away the starting quarterback from Alabama, they're gonna struggle if they don't have Ty
Mhm.
Simpson. Texas Tech, same thing. But when you look at their metrics, man, it's not good. It's just not good. And I get it. I get it. I get it. Texas Tech, they look good. You want to make the argument for the eye test. That's why I like this one, like the Texas Tech at 8, I'm not super offended by, honestly. I understand where the committee is coming from. They want to see them. There is a lot of hand waving you can do with the quarterback situation. The defense looks pretty solid. But again, it's one of those things where you haven't really played very many people, man.
I completely agree with you. The metrics just don't line up. I feel like similar to the number 9, I feel like this is one of those where they're being artificially built up for a matchup with the team we're going to talk about here in just a second in 7 BYU this week.
Yeah.
I feel like they saw the opportunity. They just wanted to make it a top 10 matchup. I think on paper, if you look at their roster, it's insanely good. They got their starting quarterback back last week, eased them in. He'll be fully ready to go for that BYU matchup. The issue is lately the defense just started to show cracks. And when that was what you were kind of banking on at the start of the year, your running back went out for the year in the first game of the year. Some people forget about that, and they haven't really had a consistent running game. And when you're bringing your quarterback back from an injury, you need to be able to implement the run. And it's the wrong team to have to do that against in that BYU linebacker.
Yeah.
That's a legit defense, and
Well,
that's
I
a team
guess.
that I held in being a top 10 team.
Oh yeah, and I guess it naturally kind of takes us to the BYU conversation at 7. I
Yeah,
have no issues with it. I think
no,
BYU has earned it. They're at that level. They might not have the most talent on their roster, but their analytics check all the boxes. They've done
mhm.
more than what anyone thought they could do all season. I'm good with it, personally.
I can put it's. Me and you did the Big 12 show before the year, and you actually picked BYU to win the conference back when we thought a different guy was going to be their quarterback. A
Yeah.
little callback there, but Bear has transferred in from Stanford, and he's I don't want to dare me say he's been better than what they had last year. That offense looks better; it's more consistent. They're
Hmm.
getting LJ Martin back for this big game against Texas Tech this weekend, and that defense, it don't matter who graduates; it's just like they spawn in another stud that could go up and try to win the Brutnick Trophy.
All right, cool. Clocking in at 6, we have Ole Miss. I have zero issues with Ole Miss being at 6.
No,
I think Ole
their
Miss has
resume
looked
is
good
good.
throughout the season. Uh, Yeah, I don't have any issues personally with it. I think the resume looks good. I think that they've played good ball teams. They have their hardest games behind them, right?
Yep,
I think they have a
that Georgia
matchup
game.
against. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have any issues with it at all.
No, I
But
think that
I don't
that's
know.
a team
Do you
that
have
scores.
anything to add about Ole Miss?
I think they're a team that they
This is a
went
team
out
that
there
what?
and I think they're a team that if they went out and
Yeah.
take care of their business,
I
even if they don't go to Atlanta.
Yeah. So really, nothing to add for Ole Miss. Bringing us on down a little bit more, we have Georgia at number 5. You and I have talked extensively about Georgia, especially on last week's All Around the South video. Georgia struggled. They've been struggling all season. They had the wins. They're getting the wins. I'll give them credit for that. They had the loss to Alabama. Alabama's a really good team. We're about to talk about them next. I think Georgia, though, does drop a game or two going forward, to be honest with you. Just the secondary hasn't looked the best. Gunnar Stockton's getting better throughout the year. The offense is progressing as a whole, getting better, but the defense is looking worse and worse every single week. And this is a team that we're not going to see in Atlanta because the way tiebreakers are going to work out, in my opinion. But it brings up a really interesting point in conversation that I want to have. What do you do if Georgia Tech beats Georgia?
That puts you in a very sticky situation if you're the committee. Because I think there's a
Like,
realistic chance you could have a 2-loss Georgia going into that game against Georgia. Because with the
you
secondary
could,
issues of
you
Georgia,
very easily could.
Texas passing game had looked better against Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt's a team that secondary looks pretty good throughout the year. And if Georgia's secondary plays the way it did against Florida, Texas is going to throw for a lot.
Yeah. Moving us down one more, Alabama at 4. The best of the one losses. I think Alabama really, they are the hottest team in the country right now. They have the best resume in the country. They've looked phenomenal. They should have the Heisman favorite on their team, in my opinion, with Ty Simpson. They continue to look better week by week by week. I know they sleptwalk through South Carolina there for a little bit, but we've seen that as a consistent now, especially the Ole Miss game last week. But I have no issues with Alabama at 4. I think you could honestly, if one of these teams in front of them drop a game, you can start making the argument for Alabama at 3 and then at 2 and then eventually 1. I think they have the best resume in the country.
I agree. Me and you have been preaching for weeks that
Moving us down one. Yeah.
Me and you've been preaching for weeks. If it's not Alabama, it's the team that's ironically 3. I think you can argue are the 2 best teams in football right now. They've at least been playing the best the past 4 to 5 weeks. Texas A&M comes in at 3. That's a team that they have all the talent in the world, and you saw the recruiting classes they had a few years ago. Mike Elko looks like he's putting all the pieces together, and they've gotten progressively better as the year has gone on.
And this is the argument this is going to be a main talking point after this, but this is the argument I'd make. I think you can make a very strong argument for Texas A&M at 1, and I think they probably should be first in the country. They have the first SOR. They have the first ranked SOR in the country. They have a top 10 strength schedule. They've beaten good teams. They've consistently beaten them. They haven't dropped. Marcel Reed looks really, really good. I keep hitting on quarterback play, but quarterback play is a very important metric that we don't talk about enough. Texas A&M, I really think they should be the first ranked team in the country. I just see it.
I'm with you. And you mentioned Ty Simpson's your Heisman front runner. If it's not Ty Simpson, it has to be Marcel Reed. Those two.
It's Marcel Reed.
Those two have played amazing this year.
Yeah. No, I'm full agreement with you. Then we have 1 and 2, Ohio State at 1, Indiana at 2, and Ohio State, they have the marquee win over Texas, which Texas is ranked 11th in the country. So it's an impressive win. Outside of that, though, they've played absolutely nobody. I mean, just nobody. Julian Sand looks good. I'll give you that.
I feel, and I told someone other, I don't know if I told you, but I know I told Brad and Max. My top 5, and I'll tell all the viewers this now. I have A&M 1. I mean, you can kind of agree they belong up there. I have Alabama 2, just resume and the way they've looked. I hate to say eye test, but eye test is a thing. And they played the 5. They went through a stretch where they played 5 top 25 teams in a row, and they won convincingly. I think Indiana's 3 and Ohio State's 4, and I have Georgia at 5, just because I feel, and I'm gonna have a lot of people talk about this. I feel like outside of Ohio State, who I think defense may be the best in the country, their offense is improving. It's a good offense, not a great offense yet. Great defense. I think the Big Ten's bad. I think Indiana's good. I think they should be in the playoffs. But I feel like both of these two teams are being boosted a little bit by playing mediocre teams.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're talking about Alabama. Well, we're talking about Ohio State beating Texas, which is impressive, very impressive. Outside of that, they played. Is Illinois their next best opponent?
I think it's Washington. Washington or Illinois. They're about the same though.
Okay. So Washington, Indiana, you have the impressive win over Oregon. We just went on the rant. We don't think Oregon's very good. Outside of that, Illinois.
Yeah.
And, all the advanced metrics, they really like Indiana, as they should, because Indiana runs up the score on really bad football teams. We talked about paper tigers a couple, I think it was last week on All Around the South. That is Indiana to a T. And I know that a lot of people don't want to admit that because, oh my goodness, they're putting up a lot of points. But when you get to playoff time, man, and I don't like this argument, but we'll take the Nick Saban argument. If you got Texas A&M playing playing Indiana on a neutral site, Texas A&M is going to be favored. If you got Alabama playing Indiana on a neutral site, Alabama's going to be favored, and Alabama will probably be favored over Ohio State as well. But Texas A&M will be favored on a neutral site against Alabama. I think there's a lot of artificial pumping of the Big Ten right now, trying to justify that 1 and 2, personally. And I get it. There's going to be people that make the argument, Ohio State, they're the returning national champion. They have to be ranked first until they lose. That is a terrible argument to make. We are 3/4 of the way through the season. This is a brand new season. These are brand new football teams. And Ohio State, I mean, they've looked good. And I would give them the number 2 ranking. I really would. But I think Texas A&M is the best team in the country right now. And it's not particularly close, analytically, statistically, or what we've seen on the field.
I completely agree.
But to round us out, though, give me your final 3 thoughts on this top 25 ranking.
I feel like the SEC's positioned to get possibly, and I hate to say this, 4 teams. They're champion and 3 at-large bids. I feel like the committee's situating it so that the Big Ten gets a similar number. And it's kind of, and I hate to say this, because the ACC comes in with 5 teams in the top 25. The way it's positioned, it's setting up for only one ACC team to get a bid, unless Georgia Tech's able to knock off Georgia at the end of the year. The G5 spot can be increasingly interesting with no G5 actually in the top 25. You got JMU, Memphis, South Florida, all kind of fighting in between 26 to 35 spot. One slip up and somebody may be able to put their name in the bracket. Personally, I love the way JMU's been playing some football lately. Memphis is a team coming off a big win at home against South Florida. South Florida's kind of reeling a little bit. Something to watch in that G5 though. There's a big one on Friday. It's Memphis and Tulane. Tulane has a chance after losing to UTSA last week to kind of beat a Cinderella killer against Memphis.
No, I completely agree. I got really nothing to add. I think I've made my thoughts very clear. As of always, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This is going to be a thing we're going to do every week, just kind of sitting down talking about the top 25 rankings as they come out. Please check out all of our amazing content on the page. We got great Louisville reviews every single week. We have All Around the South every single week, talking all the best football from the ACC and the SEC. And we will catch you guys on the next show. Please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll catch you later.